Hi everyone. So I hope you're well. I'm speaking to you from a place called the Ranch, and I'll show you a tiny bit. It is literally a ranch. And there's horses behind me, and this is where I come and do a 4-year training for core energetics practitioner. So I'm actually taking the training in my third year, and it's really an amazing practice, an amazing body therapy and spiritual path. So I'm in my third year, and yesterday we had a whole session on vulnerability and the idea of vulnerability, and although it's still quite fresh within me, so I don't want to really speak about the teaching points of it, it did trigger some thoughts, and I really felt like I wanted to share with you a bit my own journey with vulnerability and how vulnerability is something perhaps different to what we think of it, and how vulnerability can trigger some things in us that might not be expected. So we've learnt in our lives throughout our past, but also personally, but also collectively, to live in our masks, to live in our heads a tiny bit, or in putting on ways of being, ways of doing, ways of thinking that we think will get us accepted, will get us love, will get us whatever we feel like we've been missing, whatever we feel we're lacking either through childhood or through other emotional traumas. And a lot of the marketing at the moment is based on that. A lot of the how to, it's all about how to present yourself, how to show your face to the public. And it's changing slowly into a really space of alignment with the authentic inner self, the authentic intuitive and inner being. And I know that I've had that battle in myself, that the longing to share myself, and also the mind telling me, no, you need to present it a certain way, you need to look a certain way, you need to show up a certain way for others to X, Y, Z, for others to want to be with you, for others to want to follow you, for others to want to, whatever it is. And I feel I've had a big journey with that over the past year, but especially since the past 6 months really. And I did some beautiful work with a wonderful coach called John Wayne in the States, and we worked a lot on alignment in my work, and alignment with the flow, alignment with this space of vulnerability and authenticity. And it's been a real journey, but as you probably notice from the feeds and the posts, and I get lots of beautiful comments these days, I'm sharing more of myself. And that has been at the beginning quite challenging, because the mind kicks in with, how do I show myself? What do I show? And it's still, when you tap into the mind, still based in fear, still based in a story of how how I need to be perceived, need to be seen, how we need to be perceived or need to be seen in order to fit in, conform, whatever it is, in order to fulfill a certain imaginary expectation. In the case of marketing, often the imaginary expectation is to get a return, but we can apply that across the board to the way we show up with our families, with our colleagues, with our friends, to what we get in return from them, which is more often than not acceptance or love or whatever we're unconsciously looking for. And so this has been a big shift in the way I've been presenting, because it's gone from not really presenting anymore, or catching myself when I'm trying to present and noticing that hardly anyone seems to like or comment or share anything that comes from a space of presentation, but instead a space of sharing and inviting others into this journey, into this life, into this space of holding that in this scenario that I offer. But the invitation is, and I see it a lot more even in organizations or individuals doing the same thing, sharing their process, sharing their path, and then inviting others to learn from them and to do the same. And there's a few spiritual teachers, even some of the ones that I love and follow, that have this ethos that you should only really follow someone who's done it, someone who's at the top of the mountain, and in spiritual terms, someone who's in bliss all the time, and someone who's standing, cross-legged on the top of the mountain. And while I really hear that, and there is definitely a need for those people, and we can all learn from that, I truly, truly believe that there's also a need for all the other people in the different parts of the mountain that are helping the others just beneath them to climb up the next level, the next step. And that's where we all have a role in climbing this fictitious and endless mountain that we are doing as we're expanding the universe together, as we're expanding consciousness, as we're evolving as a collective, as humankind. And the only way that you can do this, the only way that we can do this, is to find more authenticity, to be more authentic, and which implies living from a space of deeper vulnerability. And that can be scary. It can bring up a lot of stories. We've often associated vulnerability and sharing ourselves with weakness, with weakness, with someone who can't hold space, can't stand on their feet, with the helplessness, the hopelessness even of being a child, being defenseless. But vulnerability is actually a deep space of power, of strength, of courage, and it is a deep space of holding the self, the one ourself, unguarded, undefended against what might happen, uninhibited by expectations and control of what we're going to get in return, but just with the essence of sharing our heart, sharing ourselves, sharing our journey, no matter what it is, the good, the bad, the ugly, all the bullshit, all the shit, all the stuff that we think, all the stuff that we feel that is sometimes uncomfortable for us. And as we share, we also allow others to experience that and to be more authentic in the way that they're feeling themselves. And just to give you also an insight into how this has affected let's say the business side, since I've started sharing more of myself and being more authentic, things have really exploded. It's been so wonderful, and to the mind that kind of wants to trick me into thinking of either marketing ways or tools or what I should be doing, and it's always the posts and the videos and the shares that are really heartfelt. And if I look back at my years of doing newsletters and posts on social media, actually it was always the case. There were always these clues. Those were always the ones that got the most response, both in terms of, it's all a human response of messages or shares or likes, people commenting their own journeys, welcoming the share, and also other people then getting in touch and saying, listen, I really love what you shared, I would love to learn from you. And that's been a massive recognition, realization for me. And I just wanted to share that because I feel it's important for us for us all to have that in mind and in our hearts as we move and as we get out there and share more of ourselves, and as we start to lead ourselves with love and wisdom. And leadership really comes from that space of authenticity and vulnerability. And that's kind of really what I wanted to say. So there's not really a how to be vulnerable. That's something that you feel. Vulnerability is something that is something to work with and to play with and to evolve with and to feel into what next step is right for you, because we're all at different parts of our journey, parts of our growth. We're all at different levels on this mountain. If there even is a mountain, that's kind of an image that resonates but doesn't really resonate. So up to you to feel into yourself, what is vulnerability? What is this? How can I share a bit more of myself today? How can I express more of my heart to others? It might be to your followers, it might be to your clients, it might be to your family, to your friends, to your loved ones. Whatever it is, play with it. Have a play with vulnerability today and just see where that leads you. A bit more openness, a bit more truthfulness and authentic sharing. So thank you for listening, and from my heart to yours, I love you, and I will speak to you soon.